Hi, I'm Alex Araneta, and this is the third video that I've been able to dish out. No? And I've been basically talking about a program or a life process that I've been able to discover and apply for about 33 years now. And I've basically encapsulated it into a program which I call the Diamond of Personal Excellence. And in this program, I basically talk about five elements. And for the first few videos that I've been able to dish out, I've been focusing on the first core element, which is basically understanding what I call your core. And underneath that core that I talk about is are two things that are very important for us to start with towards a process or a life of fulfillment and value. And the two things that I talk about is first is knowing your why and appreciating your value. Now, most of us, have heard about this, have read about this in on the importance of knowing your why. And when we talk about knowing your why, it's basically understanding what are the things that give you meaning and purpose. What makes you alive and come alive when you're doing this very thing. What keeps you awake just thinking about these things. Well, these are excellent things, and I'm going to be talking about that, at some later point. But you know what? Even before you ask that question, I think there's another question that we all need to ask ourselves even before. And that question is, whose am I? Let me repeat. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, whose am I? And let me give you an illustration why that question is actually so important. You see, one of the things that I love to do, in fact, it gives me such a sense of meaning and even purpose, is I love to bike. And these are the bike wherein you're able to go to so many places. It's a road bike, or now they call it a gravel bike. But I love it because it gives me a sense of freedom. It brings me to new destinations, and new experiences. And so I love doing it. But you know what? When I first started, I discovered that there was something. While I loved biking because it gave me meaning and purpose, when I actually started doing it, it wasn't as exciting. In fact, it was hurting, it was challenging, it was painful. So it wasn't all at all that pleasant. And you know why it was like that for me? Well, because of what I was connected to. In other words, see, while my why in biking was fantastic, was beautiful, unfortunately, I was connected to a bike that was what? That was heavy, that was slow, right? In other words, it was an encumbrance, or it made me difficult to appreciate, right? And experience, my meaning and purpose. And so, why am I using that example in relating to our life? You see, our lives, our whys, finding our meaning and purpose, it doesn't operate in isolation. In other words, whether we realize it or not, we're attached to something. And what are these somethings that we're attached to? It could be relationships, it could be possessions, it could be our reputation, our position, it could be performance, it could be our past, right? It could be even problems that we are experiencing, or that has been lingering for so long, right? And why am I sharing these things? You see, all these things, similar to my bike example, all these things are preventing us now, and will prevent us from what? Truly being able to understand and experience and appreciate our why or our meaning and purpose. So, what do we need to do? Well, we need to what? Face the brutal facts and really now get to the core of what are the things that are what? Holding us back, or what are the things that are attached to us that somehow prevents us now from moving forward, right? You know, in my case, one of the biggest discoveries that I've had was really my past was one of the major hindrances or stumbling blocks from me being able to really pursue and understand my why. You see, I grew up in an environment where relationships were not too healthy. And so, how did that affect me now? You see, so I would always keep a distance, right, with different relationships that I've had. Why? Because I didn't want to expose myself. I didn't want to make myself vulnerable to other people. See? And because I kept, okay, that block, that as well now prevented me from being able to connect to people. And since I was not able now to connect with people, it started now to what? Affect my self-confidence. I was beginning to ask myself, is there anything wrong with me? Why is it so difficult for me to be able to connect with people? You see, so until I understood and answered the question, whose am I? Or who is controlling me? Or what are the things that are stopping or preventing me from going to the next level? See, until I addressed that, that was the only time that I was able to move forward. So, let me ask again yourself. You see, if you notice, I'm a person who likes to ask a lot of questions. But again, you only ask questions so that you can arrive at answers that will be able to help you. So the question that you have to ask yourself this again, if you haven't yet, is whose am I? What are the things that are preventing me or are possessing me, right? From moving forward, from going ahead, and from now really being able to what? Understand and appreciate my why and my value.